Hi, this is Malcolm here, and what I'm really interested in doing today is creating a very simple, basic, object-oriented ExpertAdvisor using the includes and the base classes that are provided inside the MQL environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a template, and we're just going to pull the bits out because there's a lot of very useful functionality that's included in that, such as weighted orders and trading stops and so forth. It would take a lot longer if you had to write it all yourself. So it's really worth reusing some of this infrastructure that's already been provided. So if I go for a new file, and what I'm going to do is ExpertAdvisor Generator. I'm going to choose one of the existing signal generators to use to provide the signals for the buys and sells. What we're going to do is pull that out and then rewrite that signal part ourselves using a class and then using the other classes, the expert classes, to provide us with the base functionality for that. So I'm going to choose everything as pretty much default. So experts, and we're going to call it just EA1. There's a couple of things that will be included in here in the input parameters. So I'm just going to go for the default there, and we're going to add a signal provider in, basically just to provide us with the infrastructure and the setup inside the generated ExpertAdvisor so that we can just swap this out. So I'm just going to accept that as default. We don't really care about any of those. Trading stop not used, we won't go into that here. We'll go for the defaults in this, and we get the generated document. So there's a lot of stuff in here that we probably will rip out, all this MACD stuff, since we're swapping that out, so we can ignore that. But what we are very interested in is this part here. So this is the signal provider that will be responsible for giving us the buys and sells. You'll also find there's another signal provider. This just hosts this signal provider. So say, for example, if you had MACD and another signal, such as another signal provider. So, for example, if we look in oscillators, there's quite a few in here. So the average true range, which is in here, we've got a lot of these, spares power. Anyway, so let's go back and close this down. So we're interested in pulling this out and writing our own. So let's start off by creating a new class for this, which we're going to call My Signal Provider. So I'm going to go to include expert my signals, which I've already set up. As you can see, I've already been testing a few things in here. So let's do a new include, which will allow us to include it in its parent script and gain access to the functionality. Next, and we will call this My Signal Provider, and finish. Perfect. Right, we don't want any of that. We're just going to start off from scratch. Okay, so what we're going to do is start off writing the class that will provide us with the signal. So there is no definition of interfaces in the MQL programming framework. So what we have to do is inherit from a base class and just override some methods. So there's no real fixed interface contract definition really in this language. So we just kind of have to know roughly which methods to override. So let's start off by creating the class. So we call it class My Signal Provider, and the programming paradigm for MQL5 is very big on putting C in front of all the classes. Not really a big fan myself. It's a bit of a kind of convention from a bygone era when people were programming C++, and I think we've move forward a little bit now. But we'll stick with the convention because a convention is better than no convention at all. So we need to inherit then from the base class, which will provide us with a lot of the functionality we need for this, which is CExpert Signal. Much in the way of C++, there isn't really much of the concept of namespaces in this programming, so we need to actually pull in the file that will give us the functionality. So we need to do an include in this, and we want expert, and we want ExpertSignal, and we need to put the extension in this, which is MQH. We need to declare the methods that we're going to be using in this class, and there are a few that we really need to use and override. So let's just set up the basic constructor and deconstructor following the conventions set out, and we want and now the methods that we want are validation settings. We also want to override the init indicators. And that is going to take a pointer to C indicator, S. And we want the two methods for actually generating the actual buy and sell conditions themselves. So this is long condition and no parameters for either of these. Sorry, short condition. So you may be wondering why this returns an int instead of a bool that you'd probably expect either a buy or a sell. The reason is that the hosting framework can take a weighted condition of perhaps maybe the trade would be a long and a short condition possibly at the same time, which is feasible. So the long condition may return 20 and the short condition may return 5. The winner out of those two will be a positive 15, which will mean that the long condition will win. So you could also have two signal providers, both running at the same time, both providing signals. One could be providing a long condition, one could be providing a short condition. They may cancel each other out. So rather than just returning a yes or no, it will return a weighted number, which will also work with the rest of the signal providers inside the system. So let's quickly flesh these out. Don't really want to do anything with these. So let's do the validation settings. So for this, we do actually need to write some infrastructure for it. So we need to say if the base class, which is the ExpertSignal, So if the base class doesn't validate, then we want to return false. A lot of this is just by convention of the infrastructure that's already been set up, and you do have to kind of follow it. If you look at this, actually, it sets some phases on the setup for building up all this stuff. So if you don't call it, it will throw an error, and we just want to return true. So what this would really do is give you a chance while this is setting up. So let's say, for example, if you had a MACD and you maybe passed the parameter in like -10 for one of the moving averages, you'd have a chance to check then to make sure there's no silliness that got in. You can fail the validation there if you wanted, and that would stop things from going slightly wrong when you ran it. So let's do that, and then we'll do the next one we're interested in is the init indicators. So that's this guy here. So let's pull that out. Well, signal provider, init indicators. So the validation is passed at this point. We just really need to call this method on the base class to set things up. So let's do that. Signal, and we want init indicators. Passing that on down, and if it doesn't work, we'll return false. Otherwise, we will return true. Okay, so that's those two. So this is really just plumbing all of this. The methods that we're really interested in are the long condition and short condition. So let's do those. So it's an int signal provider. Let's do the long condition. And for now, what we're going to do is, for this, we're going to return 100. And we will do int short. So I'll tell you what we will do. This is the most simple possible scenario. We're just going to return 100 from here, and we are going to return 0 from here. So this will be 0 is no signal return. 100 will be a positive signal for going on a buy condition for this one. So anything above 0 in the aggregation of the parent for a long condition will result in this position being open for this. So let's just compile that to make sure we got no goodies in it. Let's have a look. What have we done? So that wasn't very smart. Compile again. And we didn't need to pass that in at all either. So thanks to the IntelliSense there. So we've got my signal provider here. Perfect. So next thing we need to do is to go back into the actual expert provider that we created, and we're going to swap this MACD out here. So let's just pull this guy down here. Give ourselves some space. Pretty much follow the same format. So we are interested in, we don't want the MACD, we do want our provider. So let's pull this out, ExpertSignal, and we have got my signals. And we have got my signal provider. So that would now give us the functionality from that file included in here. We can start referencing it and build up a class from that. So my signal provider, we want to see my signal provider filter. The convention of the generator is to create variables called filter 0, 1, 2, 3 to N, based on how many signal providers you include in here. So we don't really need any of this check in here, to be honest. This is just a test. What we do need to do is add this in. So this is saying that the ExpertSignal, which will host this as a signal inside a signal, which is very confusing. We'll add a new one of these in, and hopefully it will call the methods that we provided for a long position and short position whenever the on-tick event fires. So we can get rid of all of this because that was MACD specific. The rest of this, trailing stop, money management, we don't really care about. All we do care about is the fact that our signal's now been included in this. So let's save that, compile, make sure we're all good. Yes. And we'll put a couple of breakpoints in as well. So we're interested in the on-tick event. And then let's put some breakpoints in here to make sure that we have indeed been calling our methods. And let's run this now. Okay, so we've got a breakpoint here on the validation settings. So let's just F5 that and we will skip out. We've now got to the init indicators. So validation passed, initialize base class, run the validation settings on the base class, return true because we had nothing to validate here. We're going to run the indicators initialization on the base class as well. Here we've also got nothing to do because this is a very, very simple class. So just remove the breakpoints from those two. Remember there was actually another signal provider in there. On tick, so this is what we're interested in now. The signal provider is initialized. We're now going to get called down through the pipeline into our long and short methods to see whether they provide a long or a short condition. So here we go. This will return 100. It will also run the short condition. And let's just take that off now because it does some more processing. We will remove that. There we are. So this is quite a large gap here. So let's just run that once more, but tell you what we'll do is to just pull down the stop loss and the take profit. So let's do that 10 pips and stop loss 10 pips. And in case you're wondering where these came from, these are in the parameters that are in the top header of the ExpertAdvisor. So you can see stop loss, it was set at 50 initially, take profit at 50. So let's just rerun all that and we can watch it on screen. So at the moment, whenever the order runs, it always creates a buy. Not very useful in itself, but it provides the basic for creating a signal provider, and we can then build on that, which we'll do in another video. Cheers.